like, I guess we could talk about the new Mulcharmy. If you control no cards, you can quick effect, discard, apply these effects. Each target opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard and or banishment, immediately draw one card. And it's just the last Mulcharmy. We have one from main, have one deck, we have one from hand, and we have one from graveyard. Like, there's almost nothing to say about this. It's like, yeah, this card will be good in matchups. It's kind of like the same reaction we had with Purin, except that we already kind of have a baseline to draw from, where like Purin was not seen in every main deck, but was definitely seen in side decks as like a matchup specific card. And Nyalus is one of those cards where it's just a very matchup specific card, where sometimes it'll be good and sometimes it'll be bad. Like, it's a card. Like, I don't know, what is there to say? Against Fiendsmith Engine, this card's pretty good because you get to beat Alluri, you get to be beating Graver from Grave, you get to be like certain Yubel lines where they're going, you know, like Spirit Gates to revive, or they're going like a Muckracker Aerial Eater line where they're like sending a bunch of stuff. And then there are some matchups where like this card just doesn't do jack shit. Finally, a card I could punish, of Manticore of Darkness. Oh, by the way, this card does lose to the infinite Manticore of Darkness loop, where you have like one on the field and one in the graveyard, and then you just like infinitely cycle those two. Like, that's pretty funny. Like, I don't know how to personally feel about this. I just have no strong opinions regarding this. I just have no strong opinions regarding like Mulcharmies in general anymore. Like, we already know what the absolute apex looks like in Max C, and Fuelos is just disgusting. So like, when I see Purulia and Kitty, I'm just like, oh, like, that's cool, I guess. Oh, by the way, it's an Earth, so you can't really play it along like Pulse. I mean, you can, but you know, I'll be excited for another 70 to 140 card I can't afford and continue to be priced out of the game. Yep. Problem is, this card is gonna be like Purulia, where on release it's like $50 to $60, and then it's probably gonna now be around like $80 to $90 because it's gonna be a chase secret rare that's gonna be short printed, or it's gonna come in boxes that have the rarities mapped and clumped out, and people are just gonna have to buy cases of Supreme Darkness. The QCR is like $400, isn't it? Yep, it is $400 for one Fuelos QCR. And Mulcharmy and Purulia is about $150 to $160 for the QCR. And even just like the base rarity is now in like the 60s, when it was like 40 to 50 maybe like a couple weeks or maybe like a month ago. It's just a very unpleasant time to be a TCG player. This game is so expensive. Purulia is 65 to 70. My god. Why can't we just import the cards from Japan? Because technically Japanese and Asian English card stock is like marginally different. So theoretically, if you're like Penn and Teller and can like tell the weight of the cards just by feeling it, you can like theoretically distinguish them from like American cards, and then you can like stack very easily or use that in a cheater way. But we all know that the actual answer is the fact that Konami doesn't want TCG players to have cheap and affordable cards, because unfortunately the TCG market in Western nations and Oceania are way more different relative to those of OCG territories such as China or Japan. It's getting to weird disconnect territory. For example, MBT basically told people who can't afford to play TCG to just play online simulators, which is both true but also continuing to create this divide between people who be pay pigs for the new Konami cards, those who become increasingly priced out of the physical game. Yeah, it's fucked. We went over this earlier in regards to like when I went over the MBT video, but the fact that one of the primary options to quote unquote enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh right now is to just be like, except you will never be able to play paper play, is absurd. Like, I make a good amount of money at my job. I'm not like a millionaire by any fucking stretch of the imagination, but I'm able to like live in California relatively comfortably. I'm able to have like a couple $100 to myself after I pay off all my bills and my mortgage and whatever. But there are a lot of people who are in much poorer nations, or who do not make as much money as me, or have other responsibilities like kids or other projects or stuff like that, that telling them that, yeah, sorry kiddo, you have to pay $800 extra like every 3 months just to be able to keep up with this game at a semi-competitive level is a very disgusting ask, and is very frustrating to be on the receiving end on. Like, even if this card ends up being like what, a $30 or like $40 card, like it won't, but let's say it will, telling people to spend $100 to $150 extra, like that's something that people just don't want to do. $150 goes a long fucking way. That's people's phone bills, that's people's power and water bills. Why do I have to literally double my fucking data plan just to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh for like what, 6 more months before this card gets reprinted and its value fucking tanks? Like, the easiest example I could give is like, look at Phantom of Yubel. This was a card that at its peak was around like its 80 on release, and then it was like for a while, you know, like $50 to $60, and you had to play 2 to 3 of this fucking card, by the way, because it was part of like literally the best deck. And you know, now just because of like player descent content and the card being sort of like no longer that good just because it got power crept out immediately by Fuelos and like Fire King Snake Eye. This card is $24. It hasn't even been like 3 months. This card went from $46 to $20. And like we're gonna see that happen when these Mulcharmies, which literally cause people to quit the game over because it's literally too expensive and pricing people out, who are just not gonna be able to afford this shit anymore. It's a fucking headache to have to continually play this shitty song and dance where you have to ask yourself, okay, am I gonna take a forced 6-month break from Yu-Gi-Oh in order to just wait for the reprints in order to play this game affordably, or am I gonna basically shoot myself in the foot financially for like 2 months just to be able to play this deck at fucking locals and a regional, you know what I mean? 150 for a side deck card to have a 5% win change in specific matchups. Yeah, if you look like Phantom YGO's video, he literally does the math into how relevant like a card like Fuelos, which is going to be infinitely more applicable relative to the fucking kitty, and you know, in certain matchups it's only going to have like a 5% win rate boost, and in other matchups maybe at most it's going to be like a 6 to 15% win rate increase. And like, you know, that might not sound a lot like on paper, but in reality that's going to be like one match out of a, like, if you play a 4-round local, you're gonna go through maybe like 10 to 12 matches. It's gonna be 1 to 2 games out of the locals experience on average where you are going to either win or lose because you decided to pay $450 or $150 or $250 or whatever the fuck these stupid ass Mulcharmies end up being priced at. It's just frustrating and stupid. Like, I just look at Nyalus and I'm like, ugh, this shit again. And I guarantee you we're gonna be having the same conversation when another Dominus card gets released. It's gonna be called like Dominus Skibbity, and it's like, oh, you cannot activate like fire, light, and water. But whenever your opponent would move a card out of their graveyard or something, you can negate that effect. Or like whenever your opponent activates a card effect on the field, you can negate that effect or some shit like that. It's very so silly. I'm so fucking annoyed with this pricing structure. Oh, look at this stupid fucking cat's face. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've created. Pretty cute card though. It's kind of fucked up, but it's cute. Yeah, at a certain point, any increased win chance is valuable, especially when you try to play this game at like, let's say the YCS level. When you're considering taking a deck to a YCS and you're taking games to game 3 all the time, and you're gonna play like a 12-round tournament, that's gonna be 36 rounds. That's gonna be like 6 to 10 games determined exclusively off of the back of, are you gonna be a pay to win Andy? And you're gonna slap down the Fuelos and be like, all right, buddy, sorry, but I'm just a little bit better. Like, sorry, Timmy, go back to the ice cream shop. Deliver a few more papers. It's very frustrating to see that dichotomy. Anyways, this was a pretty short video. Whoa, I dropped it. Wow. Wow, 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 wow.